Welcome all, and thanks for watching. Hey, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button while you're here. Sure helps the channel out. Today I'm going to work on my AHM 040 that I put a soundtrack, just a mobile decoder in, about all I could fit. Was running fine, ran it around the track, everything worked out well, but the motor I cleaned up and everything finally just shorted out. So I already had this thing apart, and I decided what I wanted to do was to try to remotor this. So to remotor this, I decided to go ahead and put a CAN motor in it, but you have to find a CAN motor that's going to be as small as this one because there's not a lot of room in here. So looking at it, I did some measurements, and what I finally figured out, I'm going to mount it right to here. I think I can fit it in there, right in this area, right above the weight that's there. And what I found was this little, from Micro Mark, I found this little 2025 motor. Now it measures almost perfectly with this other motor. It's about 1 inch long, and that's what this motor measures out to. And I figured once I kind of cut the back side of it off and cut what I need on the other side for the gear, I really think this is going to fit in. Don't know if I'm going to mount it flat or vertical, but I think this right here will be a good fit. It's going to make it a lot more DCC friendly. I believe it won't draw as many amps, but I think this is going to fit in here good. I'm pretty excited. So what I'll have to do is we're going to have to take some measurements off of here, but looks good right here. I will cut the back side off of this, and then I'll cut what I need to put the gear on right there. So we'll just hack that back side off. That's the easy part. It's going to fit in here well. And looking at this, I think to give a little bit more room, and this won't harm anything, I'll kind of let you see this right here. This motor could go up maybe about 1/8 of an inch more if I do some trimming. And I think right here, right there where that little tabs are, I think I can, I'm just gonna notch those off. I kind of marked them already, but I'm gonna notch those off right there to give me a little bit more room. Won't be any problem. There you go. So you can see it pretty good right here. But if we take that notch off on both sides, that'll give me a little bit more room, and I'll have to take some off back here, but it won't be sticking out as much. I think it'll come out pretty flush and to where it was before. And my method's going to be, once I put the motor there, I'm going to hot glue it down. And like I said, I don't know, once I get the gear on it, I'll figure out if it's going to go vertical or if I'm going to lay it flat. But that we'll hot glue it, and then we'll tuck some wires in and see if we can't get this little guy running again. We don't have a lot of room in the tender to put the DCC decoder, so I can't put any sound in it. First thing you want to do though is you want to clean all this stuff up. There's a lot from the motor when it burned up. There's a lot of debris in here, so I take some rubbing alcohol and I just work around, and I'm going to clean this all out, make sure we get a good stick on the glue. So just get it all out of there, do the best you can. And there's a bunch of these out there. I know I see a bunch of them out on eBay and stuff, and you'll find out this actually comes out pretty good. I wish I could put sound in it. I'm sure there's ways to do it with smaller decoders, but I did have this decoder here, so I really don't have a lot tied up in it. And this engine was just found in one of these lots that I bought. And I thought, heck, it'll be a challenge, but let's try it out. Thought I had it running really good with the old motor, but just didn't hold up. Okay, now I think it's time let's go ahead and cut this. So, yeah, let's get these tabs hacked off here. I'll speed up some of these clips so it doesn't take as long, but make sure you're wearing safety glasses. Sparks fly out all over the place, but if you notice here, I have to go back and clean it up again. A lot of debris, and then I take a little bit of canned air, and I'll go ahead and blow that off of there. I don't want any of that debris flying around in there. So there you go. It's all nice and clean again. The motor's going to tuck up in there I think it's just about right. And now we're going to have to look at the back, and we're going to have to take this back ledge off a little bit. But it sits pretty much exactly where the other motor sat, so it'll be fine. So we'll go ahead and measure this. I've already cut the back of it off. Just needs to go flush. And here we'll just take a measurement, and I'll go ahead and trim it off. Just got a black mark there where I marked it, and we should be pretty close. There you go. So that's my measurement. There's my mark. Again, we'll go ahead and just cut it off with a Dremel. Clean it up, get the burrs off so that we can tap this in. But if you look at it now, see, I'll put the gear on it, speeding it up for you a little bit. But we'll put that gear in it, and yeah, it's going to have to lay flat. We'll lay it flat. I'm going to mark it here. We'll cut all this out, and we'll get that in there. It's going to fit right there. Yeah, got the cab on there. Trim all that out, get it cleaned up. And that motor is going to sit there just fine in there. So after you get it all cleaned up and everything looks fine, we'll have to see how this motor sets. I did find out one thing doing this, that when you lay this motor flat, that there's actually two different heights here to this. So the gear is closer one way than it is the other way. So if you notice here, it's too far away from the top gear. I flipped upside down, darn near perfect. And you can adjust that. The good thing about the hot glue is when I put the hot glue down, you can adjust that to where you want. Again, I use a low temperature glue stick that sets up pretty fast. But once I fill this in, you'll see I can adjust it for just a few seconds and pretty much get my gears the way I want to do it. So I just fill it here. That's about all you want to do. Enough for the motor to stick. We'll do some other things later to hold it on. But if you notice right here, I just kind of set it down, kind of figure out the spacing, wiggle it around, make sure it's pretty centered, and trim off. Push some glue. Pushing some glue in there. I'll clean up the other stuff a little bit later in the video. But just do that. Get some of your excess off. It's drying already. And then you can look at your motor here and see how it's setting in there. Now set the cab on it. Look at that fit. Doesn't stick out any more than the other one. And at the very end, I'll just paint the whole motor black with some engine black, and it'll be just as hidden as the other motor. Okay, so we'll come back and we're going to put some hot glue right here in a little bit. But let's pull these tabs up so I can test this motor. I want to make sure this thing runs good. So just pull them up, and these do get pushed down later after that they push down real nice. So we'll test the motor here with just a little DC control. Runs fine. Put a little bit of grease on there. Boy, this sounds really good, and it's running a lot smoother. So pretty happy with that. Take your hot glue. Let's put just a little bead right there, and that will hold that motor, just an extra safety there to hold it. Try the shell back on it, make sure there's not too much glue there. It fits fine. It's fitting great. So that's going to look good. I'll paint it with some engine black, and we'll hide that motor. And we'll do that after testing's done. But it will hide the motor and paint the wires and make it all look really good. There you go. There's the can motor for it. Looks great. And you got any of these, now you know how to do it, but take a couple of the wires and just put a couple of drops of hot glue to pull these wires back. And I'm going to show you why you want to put them on the side of the motor like this on this particular model, because I'm going to zoom up here for you in a minute. You're going to see that where these wires come across, let's get you zoomed in here, see if you can see this. But these wires are real close to the gear. Trust me, I know the first time I did this, it got caught up in the gears. It has to go into the inside of this bracket right there, but it has to keep away from the gear. It can't be on the outside of this bracket. So it has to run like this, just over top of this, tucked on the inside, but away from the gears. That's why I put a little bit of hot glue and I pushed it back, but it's got to stay behind that right there. You do that, the shell sits on good and it won't get caught up in the gears. So tack it with a little bit of hot glue. Do yourself a favor. It'll save you a lot of headaches down the road. So we'll go, let's get the motor wires on it and get this thing checked. So just, it's got a red dot on it for your positive. So this did work. It usually, when I mount motors, I always do these things backwards, but it seems like I always get the backwards one. Just go ahead and solder your wires on. Again, I already had this decoder in here one time before, so there's not a lot of work to it, except for putting the motor wires on. I'm going to tell you the hardest part of this whole install is tucking this size decoder that I used in it. Again, I used the decoder that I had here on the bench. I've had it for a long time. I just stuck this mobile decoder. I know all the manufacturers make smaller ones, and there's probably a way to put some sound in this. But just get this soldered up. Get these two wires done. There you go. That's all we need to do. So I need to put the front pilot and the light on it and the weight, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to do this off camera because this was a bear to get these things back on here. This little four-wheel thing drove me crazy to get this thing on here. But I tuck all my wires there for the light. I touch them up on top of the motor again. Tuck them in there. Then I put the weight in. And you notice I got the pilots on. That probably took me 30 minutes off camera. That was it's a tough little thing to put on. Get the shell back on this thing. Hey, we're about ready to go. Get the final screw in here. Real easy to take these things apart too. That's what makes these kind of fun. We'll get that. Got to make sure you get those in there. That got kind of jammed up on me, but tuck all your push your terminals down. Tuck all your wires in inside the cab, every place you can. Just tuck them down. Again, like I said, I'm going to take a paintbrush and some engine black and put that in. Make sure you get your weights in. I put a little bit of hot glue, just a tad on there to hold them in there. Get my decoder in. There you go. I went ahead and I put a orange light for the backup light, kind of an orange-yellow light back there, because basically I had one and I thought it looked pretty cool. Make it look like a glowing lantern almost, so figured, what the heck, I'll try it. Keeps my cost down. I had all this stuff laying around. So there we go. It's all put together. My only concern is it's only got 2 pickups on the front wheels. I'm going to see how it does on the layout, but I got a feeling it's not going to do very well. So let's take it over to the track and see what it does. Now, I was right, because here I go. It's running very smooth. Hits a switch. Boom. There's just not enough pickup, those 2 wheels. Take it back over. It runs fine on the track. Once I get to the next switch, you'll find out. it's going to stop again right there. So we're going to have to put some wheels on the back of it. I do want to put metal wheels anyway, so I opted to put in some KD 593s with a wire lead already on them. And this is going to do a couple things. It's going to give me better pickup. Plus, it's going to give me more weight to that tender with the all metal pickup and everything. So, and that tender could use a little bit more weight. So these are really nice trucks. They're more than I want. Actually, it's more than I got in the whole thing. I think they were $30. But what the heck, I'm already in this deep, and let's go ahead and put these in. Just drill a couple holes. Feed your wires through. There you go. Put them in there. And the one thing that I forgot about is that it's going to have a coupler, because the coupler was on the rear truck before. But what's really nice about this install is that there's plenty of room for a KD box and a 148 whisker coupler. And I took this little piece right here off the top that held the coupler in. I'm not going to use that wheel set anymore. And it is the same thickness as where it sits in there that I need. It works perfect as a spacer. So I'll just trim it off what I need. This worked out really well. So just cut this down to what you need. And it just fit absolutely perfect right here. I'm just going to go ahead and super glue this down. I think super gluing the box down and everything's going to hold perfect. Again, I clean everything off with alcohol, make sure it's all dry, get a good clean surface. And we'll glue this down. A couple of drops of super glue will hold it fine, and then I can glue the box right on top of it. Now, I did notice something, that when I was doing this, even though it's perfect thickness and everything, as I try to scoot it over, it was catching on something, and I didn't notice this ridge. So there's a ridge right here I'm going to have to take off, and I'll zoom in and show you, but it's not sitting flush right here, so I'll move it off. And see how nice it fits on the end, but it's kind of crooked. So I just noticed that was a ridge right here. So just take an X-Acto knife and I'll clean that off. Make it all flat. Bring that back over. Glue it in. Let that set there for a minute, and then I can get a KD box. Got plenty of those laying around. And just glue it right there. And I mean, it's perfectly flush. I didn't have to do anything to that back brace. This thing lays so nice. There you go. Get a 148 coupler in there. We'll get that after it dries, but that's where the 148 will get in. Get your wheels. There's a red dot there that shows what's the pickup is on that side. That's a hot side of the wheel. The other side's insulated. So what's nice about these 593 pickups, when you get the back ones in there, this one right here, you notice you just have to turn this around, and by visual seeing this that you've got the right, it's on the right rail that you need it on. Of course, I set it down and look at it, and now I got to spin it because I just noticed it was wrong. So I know which ones I got to wire up, so we'll spin that one back around. Now we got a left and right rail. There we go. I really like the wheel sets. They look good. They look really good. So I need to check the coupler height on this too. Set this up on my test track up top, and we'll see how the coupler looks. Looks pretty good. We'll see how it rolls. I'm pretty satisfied with that. I may have to come back and space it, but I think that for testing purposes will be fine. It'll work good. So now you got to wire this in, and Of course, I don't like to split the wires again, so I kind of use a trick here. Is I gotta tap into the middle of the wire instead of trying to take strippers or something and break the wire. I usually just take my soldering iron and I run across the insulation here, burn some of that off. And off camera you don't see it, but I have a cleaner that I can dip the iron in and clean all that rubber off of, or the plastic off of it. I've got a brass cleaner. So just pull that back and there you go. You got a place to solder that wire in. So that works a lot better than trying to pull it back apart again. And so I'll go ahead and wire this up and with make sure that I've got the right and left rails the right way. The red's going to be my right rail and the black is going to be my left rail, so I'll solder those in. Make sure you put flux on here, of course. Trim your wires down on your it's so tight back in this tender. Make sure you trim these wires down on the trucks. Don't leave all that excess wire on there. And I'll bend these like this, and then I'll run the wire in, put a piece of shrink tube on it. Then I'll bend those, run it straight in there with a piece of shrink tube, and that way I can, after I solder this in here, I can slide this shrink tube over top of it, make a really nice connection, and it's not taking up a lot of room that way. So you'll see how I do that. We'll get that soldered in, pull that shrink tube over top there, mount it down. There you go. It looks like one wire again. So just do the other one that way. It's perfect. So speed it up again, and so you don't have to wait around too much for this, but same process for the other one. There you go. Get that soldered up. Make sure you got your flux in there. Solder that up. Then you want to slide your shrink tube over top of that. Finish it up. There you go, nice and tight. Shrink tube over top of it. Doesn't take up a lot of room this way. I always use clear shrink tube. If you see some of the stuff I do, I just like to see the connections if I have to pull off and see if something's broken rather than trying to fight it. So that's just me. That's what I use. Okay, I'll finish this up, heat it up, and I'm going to get it put back together. And let's get this thing on the track and let's see if this works. So here it is. We'll give it a little bit of power, kick on the headlight there. There's the rear light. Okay, all you rivet counters, don't burn me up on this one. I think it kind of looks cool with that orange light. Kind of looks like a lantern. I know it's not prototypical at all, but hey, it's cool. It's my railroad. I kind of like doing stuff like this. The more I watch this little thing, I really would like to have sound with it, but it'll do for right now. So we're going to go ahead. I'll talk for a few minutes. I'll show you going through this switch. This is one I had trouble with, and I'm going a lot slower on it this time. But now we have better pickup. We have the tender picking up too. So look at that. Right through that switch. No problem. Let's walk around here and let's see how it does through this other switch. Get up a little bit closer to it. Let's see how we're doing. We're going uphill now. And no stutter whatsoever. That is so cool. It's working well. All right. I'm going to let you all watch it here for a little bit. Go take it around. I appreciate you watching this video, and if you got one of these, it's a fun project, and I hope you do it. So watch a train for a few minutes. What a cool little train. I'm so glad I did this project. I hope this video helps you if you have one of these to remotor it. They're a lot of fun. So I really do appreciate you watching this channel. I appreciate all my subscribers. And if you would, if you're new here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you can get notified of future videos. Thank you for watching.